Hey BGLWs, it's your girl Shanae, and if you are watching this video close to its drop date, then happy holidays. I hope you are having an amazing time. And if you are struggling to do so, then this video is for you. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 thoughts about how to overcome anxiety about exam grades and sadness about bar results so that you can be able to enjoy this holiday season and this time period before the semester starts and before bar exam review materials really start to pick up. So let's just dive right into it. Number 1, and hear me out when I say this, I want you to embrace the idea that sometimes trying is enough. Yes, I know we live in a society that says you don't try, either you did or you didn't. And in law school, it's very competitive. You know, you want to be the top, you have to succeed at everything. But the truth of the matter is, at some point, there's going to be something in your life that you fail at. Now, I don't mean that, oh, you're going to get an F failure, but more so, sometimes you don't always meet your goal. You miss the mark at times. And it's in those moments where you actually gain the most invaluable lessons of your life, and you're able to really strengthen your skills, identify your weaknesses and strengthen them so that you can become the best version of yourself in whatever area it is that you've been tested in or that you experienced failure in. And when you embrace that idea, you realize that failure is inevitable. And because failure is inevitable, sometimes trying really is enough. Ask yourself, did you do your best for where you were at that point? Sometimes doing your best means you gave 8 hours a day, and that's what your best was because you had that. And sometimes doing your best means you gave 3 hours a day consistently because you struggled with depression, or you had a loss in the family, or you had financial issues. But when you look back on how you prepared for your exams and how you performed in your exams, did you do your best for who you were at that moment? And if you did, you should acknowledge that, cherish that, and honor that, because the truth of the matter is, not everyone can do this law school bar exam thing, okay? I've had people look at me like I'm crazy when I say, yes, it is a 5-credit course, so the exam was 4 hours and I was typing nonstop for all 4 hours. Or yes, the bar exam really is 2 days and it's 6 hours for those 2 days, and those 6 hours do not include that little 30 or 40-minute lunch, okay? Not everyone can do that, and even when it comes to people who can, not everyone makes a conscious decision to actually do it. So honor that you put in the effort to do it and you followed through and gave it your best. Which brings me to point number 2. Acknowledge what is in your control and what is not in your control. The past is not in your control. The future is not in your control, but the present is in your control. You can't change the fact that maybe you could have done something differently, or studied differently, or gave more time to something, or written this differently. You can't change any of that. You also can't change the fact that you don't know when you're going to get exam grades. Not everybody necessarily does unless your school gives you a date. You don't know what your professor is going to give you. You can't change the fact that, you're not going to be able to participate in the swearing exam, and you don't know if you're going to pass the next exam, the next bar. You can't change any of those things, but what you can control is right now. And there's 2 things you can do in this right now. 1, you can reflect on what it is that you would like, what you did in the past, and consider what you would like to do differently in the future, and make a game plan for that so that you are more satisfied with your performance in the future. And 2, you can embrace the present by being present in the now. Enjoy your time with your family and your friends, and enjoy this holiday season. Once you've made your plan, put it outside of your mind, because again, you can't control tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen. So just live in the flow of now. As hard as it is, try it. And if you're struggling to live in the now, then go back to number 1 of this number 2, which is to make a plan. Make a plan. I find that oftentimes having a plan makes me feel a little bit more in control of my life. And I know that, you know, in law school, there are a lot of like type A control people. I used to be one of them. And in some ways, I'm still that way now, just different. But one of the things that can help ease that concern or that need to have control is to make a plan, because once you have a plan, you feel like, okay, I know where my life is going. So do that first, and that will allow you to be able to enjoy the present moment, and all that it has to offer. Because as I said in my previous video on tips of how to succeed in law school, if you did not watch that, you need to go watch it and give yourself a little refresher before the next semester. But I talk about in that video how important it is to really spend time with your loved ones, because the truth of the matter is law school is not the end of the world. It's going to be 3 to 4 years of your life, and that's it. But the people in your personal life, they are invaluable, and they're not going to be here forever. So you want to make the most of those relationships and give as much of yourself as you can to those relationships, and not give all of yourself to stressing about school. And then the last tip is to understand that success is not defined by your exam grades. Okay. I'm going to tell you guys something that I'm not so ashamed to say. I was on academic probation after my first year. I got straight C's for the first semester's exam grades. But you know what else I did during my law school time? I was on the International Moot Court. I was on the mock trial team. I made journal. I did a clinic. I was a research assistant. I did a federal judicial internship. I interned at the AG's office. And you know what else too? I didn't pass the bar my first time or my second time, but I still did 2 clerkships. I actually got 4 offers. I did 2 clerkships. I went on to do work in legislation and policy, and now I'm a practicing attorney and I run a blog. Now, I'm not saying that to brag about all my, accomplishments, but I say that to say this. Being a lawyer is so much more than a grade. What skills are you bringing to the plate? What passion are you bringing to your work? That's what's most important. Before you even, your employer is not going to be looking at you like, oh, well, you didn't win this trial, so we're done with you. You're not going to win every trial. And more than likely, before you even get the opportunity to take on a trial, your employer is going to want to see what skills you have. What are you bringing to the plate? How good are you at writing? How good are you at speaking? How passionate are you about this topic area? And in law school, that's an opportunity for you to hone all of those skills. That's why I engaged in all the activities that I did. I knew that I was a really good speaker, so I wanted to take advantage of every opportunity that I had to get training in that and to showcase that so that I could become like the best at speaking. I knew that I was a great writer. I love writing, but I knew that I did not enjoy legal writing. I love me some creative writing, but legal writing, I was like, oh, this is a snooze fest. So I put myself to the task of joining activities that would force me to have to write professionally so that I could really hone in on the nuance of legal writing. And now, when I submit a writing sample or do anything writing wise, employers are usually like, oh my gosh, you're a phenomenal writer, because I took the time in law school to develop those skills rather than focus on the fact that I was on academic probation. So I want you to embrace the idea now, before you even get your grades, that your success is not determined by your grades. You are not defined by your grades. You have so much more to offer than just a grade. And I would say a year from then, okay, maybe 2 years from then, ain't nobody gonna really be asking about your grades, because this job that I'm working out, they didn't ask me about my grades. I don't even think they asked me for a transcript, real talk. So, they're 10 years from now, they're not going to be trying to figure out, did you get the best grades? I mean, some jobs will if you're trying to go for like the top firm. But the truth of the matter is, if you're trying to build a career and not just be the best and be the most successful, but actually have a career that you enjoy and not just get the job. There's a difference between a job and a career. You really need to find and seek out opportunities for you to develop the skills that are going to be necessary for you to succeed in this field. And that does not come from the exams. Yes, you do need to know the substantive law, but that's something you can continue learning over time. What is most important is once you know that substantive law, what can you do with it? Can you communicate it to a client? Can you use it to negotiate with a colleague and, opposing counsel? Can you do those things? Can you use that information to make an argument before the judge? And that comes through practicing, and that practice opportunity comes through activities and internships and organizations and building a network. So there's so much more to law school than your grades, and there's so much more to your overall success than your grades. And once you acknowledge that, you're good to go. And if you need to, watch this video over again and practice these things and tell yourself these things over and over again until it sinks in and you're really able to enjoy your time. And if you don't know what activities you should be pursuing, well, your girl created a nice handy dandy career services guide. Sorry, I made it and I'm over here messing up on the name. But I created a nice career services guide. It's part 1, a workbook that's available on blackgirllegalworld.com in the resources section. It's a new section, so go check it out. And in that workbook, there's a nice little activity, quick worksheet, about 2 in there specifically, focus on identifying your strengths and weaknesses and what type of activities you might be interested in based on that, and different areas of law you think you might be interested in, so that you can then go forward and map out a plan to get involved in those things so that you can actually, develop your skills. So those are my tips. I hope that they were helpful to you. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and of course, subscribe. And don't just subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to the email list over at blackgirllegalworld.com so that you can be notified and up to date on everything that we have to offer. Thanks, guys. Bye.